this video, you're going to see Tekno's newest racing buggy, find out about all its new features, and see some amazing action on the track. And Team RC Driver's Dean Barry is taking the lead on it, so here he is.
What's going on, everybody? Dean here with RC Driver. Hope you're all having a great day. What I've got in front of me today is the new Tekno EB48 2.1. Tekno has made a lot of updates and revisions to that 2.0 platform. Put it all together. I'm here to tell you all about those updates and revisions and tell you what we think about it. All right, so let's get to it. We're gonna take the body off. Painted by the one and only Bradley Fine Line Design. As I've said before, Bradley is the painter to the stars, and if you can't drive fast, look fast. All right, let's start going through this. It's starting up front with the updates and revisions to the Tekno EB48 2.1. It's got all new knuckles, all new C-hubs, all the new updates on the geometry are all designed to help it corner in a little bit quicker, a little bit more smoothly. It's got a larger upper camber link, again, helps smooth things out. Going into the drivetrain, Tekno switched over this platform. It used to have CVDs on the 2.0. The 2.1, it uses universal drive shafts, front and rear. Their drivers felt that the universals worked a little better on rougher tracks. Most 8th scale tracks are rougher than, say, a 10th scale track. So they felt the universal was a better option than the CVD. And with that, they went with oversized bearings that are going to be a little more durable, a little more robust than what was used previously. Moving our way back toward the center, it's got new bulkheads, front and rear. They're a little more durable than the previous bulkheads, and it's got revised differentials, front and rear. So again, lots of changes between the knuckle, the hub, the universal drive shaft, diff gears, bulkheads. In addition, it's got updated shock towers on the front and rear. The rear specifically, it's got options to mount the wing higher and lower. The 2.0, you had one position for your wing, that was it. I built this box stocks platform where it's in the center. But again, you can drop the wing down, you can raise the wing up depending on what you need. Again, going to the back end of this car, the rear suspension arms are longer than the previous car. It's gonna help it handle rough stuff a little bit smoother. It's also got new rear hubs. It's got different plates in the hubs. So again, you can adjust things as you see fit. All right, sticking with the back end, it's got extended length rear shocks, a little more travel, and again, that larger volume in the shocks of oil is gonna help keep things nice and smooth, and they used a different spring in the rear. Another thing that Tekno did, you can now build the shocks either emulsion style with instructions for emulsion building, or you can build them bladder style. I opted to build these bladder style. I feel it's a little bit more smooth and more consistent over long runs. Other people might disagree with me, but I was a big fan of the bladder style, but again, it's nice to know that Tekno gives you the option with the parts right out of the box. And another thing they did, I built it with the steering rack with the servo saver, the spring-loaded servo saver built right into the rack. But Tekno does also include the pieces should you opt not to build it with a servo saver. They have the solid piece for the right-hand side of the rack. Some standard things that Tekno has always done, there's left-handed and right-handed bolts or screws that hold the shocks in, so they're less likely to loosen up. As I've said, differentials, new diff cups, new gears, new O-rings, all aimed at smoothing out that acceleration. Chassis has also been updated, so the A, B, and C and D blocks can drop down and sit a little lower, helping out that center of gravity, helping it handle rough stuff, be a little bit more nimble as you're accelerating. Another small update that some people might miss, the 2.0 came with a variety of plastic servo arms that most people quickly replace with an aluminum arm. Tekno has included a steel 25 tooth spline servo arm right out of the box. Big fan of this. As I said in one of my previous videos, I think all servo companies should come up with a standard to make life a little bit easier for everyone. They included a 25 tooth spline, which is pretty much the most common. I've got that attached to a Pinion T250 servo. Pinion servos, if you haven't checked them out, absolutely check them out. They're absolutely bulletproof. They've got nice aluminum cases, super strong gears, plenty of speed, plenty of torque, and Pinion servos are very well priced for the quality of the unit. So I'm a big fan of Pinion servos. Went with an always reliable Tekno RX8 Gen 3 speed control. I plugged that into their Hotwire and downloaded one of the racer profiles that they have online that you can download for free. And I paired that up with a 1900 kV Tekno motor. Should have plenty of rip, 15-tooth Tekno Pinion gear, and a Spectrum receiver to go with my DX5 Pro radio. All four corners, hooked this thing up with some Proline hole shot tires. So Jeff and I from 413 RC have already brought this down to RC Madness, run it through a couple battery packs. Let us show you what this thing looks like on the track. When we showed up there, we had Justin Allen, one of the hot shoes, wheel it around the track while Jeff and I did the recording. Justin was super impressed. At first, you know, he took it easy, felt the car was a little bit soft, even though it was handling really, really well. We brought it in, we added some more preload to the shocks, and it was absolutely hooked up with the box stock setup. As the footage shows, he tumbled it a few times, crashed it a few times. No worse for wear other than some scuffs on the body. One thing he was super impressed at, how quick it accelerated and how it was really planted to the track. The back end of this vehicle stayed put. The track was pretty rough, and the suspension did a phenomenal job soaking up the bumps, jumps, ruts, everything else. Also said that initial turn-in was absolutely phenomenal. You pair that with a planted back end, you're gonna be able to take nice tight corners, have nice low lap times. So he was really, really impressed with how well it tracked, how well it handled rough stuff, and again, how well it turned in. At one point, we did throw a little bit of water on the track, just try to get rid of some of the dust, believe it or not, and see how it would impact the handling. And the car was even more planted when there was a little bit of moisture on the track. So if you're on a dry track, it's gonna handle really well. If you've got a little bit of moisture on the track, look out, this thing is really gonna be hooked up. A couple little editorial notes. As I said, we did add some additional ride height, increase the preload on the springs to get it to land a little bit better. The Tekno shock collars are with the O-ring on the inside. Had to be a little bit careful when increasing the preload because it wanted to loosen up the shock body from the shock cap. So just something to note. This screw here that holds in the rear camber link, it barely catches any of the nylon in the lock nut. So I did add a little bit of thread lock to that. Nothing happened, but I'm wondering if that screw might be a millimeter or two longer, or should be a millimeter or two longer, just to ensure that it does stay put. After that initial run, went through the car, there were a couple loose screws. That's par for the course when you're building a kit and it's first time out, things do loosen up. All right, one other thing I wish Tekno had done, there's no fan mount. These vehicles, they're heavy, they're running a lot of voltage. The Pinion motor did get a little bit warm. I'm not gonna lie, did get a little bit warm with that 15-tooth pinion gear. If we had a fan mount on there, it'd be real easy to just attach a fan, plug it into the receiver, and go to keep the motor running nice and cool. So I'm hoping on any later versions, Tekno does include a easy-to-use fan mount, just to pop a fan on there and go. But nothing out of the ordinary. The diffs held their fluid nicely. Shocks held their fluid as they should. And again, when you go over all of the changes from the front knuckles, the front hubs, the longer camber link, the bulkheads, the updated differentials, shock towers, chassis, ability to raise and lower the wing, rear arms, rear hubs. This is a 2.1, but Tekno really could have called this, you know, a 2.3 or even a 2.4 with the subtle changes they have thrown in here since the initial release of the 2.0 to bring this vehicle to the next level. So again, right out of the box, really hooked up, minimal changes to the setup. Not much you really have to do to have some fun right out of the box. Get your favorite electronics. Again, we went with Pinion, a new wave battery, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with not a lot of frustration with the Tekno EB48 2.1.